All right. I think we've got a couple of audience questions here that might facilitate more direct responses than the one from than the one from Guida. Sukanyo would like to know, how does the NGS technology cost vary or differ compared to the standard technologies?
I mean, sequencing overall costs have been coming down. You have different technologies out there. Some of them have, maybe more capital investment up front and maybe reduced operating costs. Others maybe have higher operating costs, but reduce capital up front. But in general, I mean, you see the cost coming down over the years. And so I don't see it being super cost prohibitive these days. Whether, I think people have options to outsource that work, and then also if it makes sense to bring equipment in house. So I think small companies have choices in front of them, and I don't see it being, particularly prohibitive for the work.
Yeah. Okay. Another question to tackle from Adrian. How advanced would you say mechanistic modeling for ATMPs are? And in what aspects do you see potentials in mechanistic modeling for ATMP processes?
Yeah, so it still feels, fairly early to me. They are highly complex products, so the product itself is highly complex. They can be heterogeneous. The production processes are, maybe more challenging with a lot, at least for gene therapies, using transient transfection, and so there's just greater complexity in the process overall. But I think that as we generate larger data sets, that improves our ability to check our models and see whether we can improve it there.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier that it's important to step back and analyze your data access in process development and figure out what's missing, what's where there are gaps, and then work to solve those gaps. So what like in your mind, and I don't anticipate that you will give us very specific examples in Astellas, but generally speaking, like an industry wide, if you look at PD and gene therapy, what do you still see missing? Like what is missing right now? What process development data, technologies, or solutions would kind of fall onto your wish list for better insight into production?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see improved ability to rapidly measure the genome and the capsid titer. We still, heavily rely on offline systems to, take a sample, go run the test, get your result. Sometimes the turnaround time for the test is half a day. And it'd be, my dream world would be that you could just monitor this in real time, along with what's being packaged inside the product. I think, that's, probably unrealistic today to think that you could do that, but that would be kind of the ideal state, is really being able to understand the production process while it's happening. I think also some improved feedback process control systems for upstream that would improve the control of the process. And then since we deal with transient transfection all the time, depending on what's being used there, tools to monitor the complex formation in real time. So there, you tend to have a reagent that forms a complex with the DNA that you're adding into the process, and being able to monitor that formation in real time would be nice to have. So they're, potentially like a single use inline DLS type technology.
Yeah. Question from Jean-Marc regarding sort of the relationship between PD and ATMP manufacturing. do you have opinions on how to reduce process variability in manufacturing? And I guess more specifically, how can PD teams enable more robust ATMP manufacturing? So,
Yeah,
you know,
that's right up my wheelhouse. Yeah, since I have the technical development team, that's something that we think about on a daily basis. Um, and we're lucky as an organization to have internal manufacturing, and so we're able to build really close relationships with our manufacturing colleagues. And if you don't have internal manufacturing, you need to try and do the same thing with your CDMO partner, um, because it's really important to understand what are the limitations that the manufacturing team sees. They may identify issues that you don't identify when you're working at smaller scale development. And the other side is trying to be able to run large enough experiment sets that you can understand your process conditions better. Um, if you're limited there and you can only run a small n number, then that really means you don't have the ability to explore the design space of the process, and that'll limit your understanding when you transfer it to manufacturing. I think ATMPs overall are still new, so there's things that we don't fully understand, and that can means you need to do more development long term to understand the processes better. But if you take that approach, I think you can help reduce some of the variability that could be seen in manufacturing. One other important piece to look at is your raw material variability, because that could play an important aspect as well. So don't do your development with a single lot of critical raw materials, because you might miss something.
yeah. I want to get back real quick to the question I asked you about when you step back and you have a wish list in terms of what's missing. I mean, great responses there. So the vendor community, I'm sure, is listening. How are we going to go solve Josh's problems? But when you think about that wish list, do you see potential about the technologies you mentioned being excited about earlier around AI and ML? Do you see the potential for those technologies to fill in those gaps?
Maybe. So, I mean, we'd probably rely on data sets using these offline measurements to input into the model. So it's possible that if the models work good enough or predictive enough, that reduces the number of experiments you actually need to run in the lab. But again, it's still pretty early, so I haven't seen that come to fruition just yet.